Konoha diligently works on her story, in which she gives her own name to the magical heroine. In her tale, the character embarks on an adventure alongside her love interest. The fantasy, however, is abruptly shattered when her mother bursts into her room, demanding that Konoha focus on her studies. Konoha ignores the request, insisting that learning about magical abilities is far more important than studying. She loves immersing herself in fantasies, dreaming that one day she'll be summoned to a mythical world filled with adventure. As she wonders what her backstory might be, she decides to write a farewell letter to her parents as a precaution, in case she's suddenly whisked away to live her new life. 10 years pass and nothing fantastical happens. Konoha grows up and settles into an ordinary job. One evening, while walking home from work, her mother calls to tell her she found Konoha's old letter from 10 years ago. After confirming that her mother can throw away her belongings, Konoha suddenly remembers the contents of that note. Then, as if fate were listening, a truck appears out of nowhere. Suddenly, she recalls her childhood fantasy story about a magical heroine who falls in love with her younger sister's fiancé, Jennifer. The two fall in love instantly. But their love doesn't go unnoticed by Iana, Konoha's younger sister. Upon discovering their relationship, Iana vows to put an end to it. Knowing how much Iana opposes them, Jennifer and Konoha decide to keep their love a secret. Despite Iana's many threats, Konoha continues to care deeply for her sister. One day, Iana gets her hands on a mysterious book called The Dark History, rumored to kill anyone who reads it. Delighted, she flips through its pages, forgetting that she is not immune to its curse. Suddenly, she's struck by visions of the real-world Konoha, writing the very story of the fantasy world she inhabits. She sees that version of Konoha shaping her, Jennifer, and herself, detailing their intertwined backstories. Then Konoha awakens in Iana's body. Before she can make sense of the situation, the police, headed by Shano, announce her arrest for attempting to murder Konoha. Startled, she realizes Shano addressed her as Iana, not Konoha. Trying to recall her last memory, she remembers the truck speeding toward her. Thrown into a dungeon, the truth dawns on her that she's been reincarnated. She reassesses her situation, trying to recall the story she had written back in middle school. As she ponders what to do, the Konoha from her fantasy world suddenly appears and pulls her into a warm hug, relieved that no one has harmed her. Iana stands frozen in a trance. She never imagined she would actually meet the Konoha she created, and she's exactly as Iana had envisioned. As Konoha fusses over her, worried that Iana seems dazed, Jennifer suddenly enters the dungeon, sword drawn, demanding that Konoha be killed. Konoha insists that Iana hasn't done anything wrong this time, but Jennifer is far less forgiving. He coldly reminds Konoha that Iana has repeatedly tried to kill her and deserves to be executed. As Jennifer lists the terrible crimes Iana committed in the story, Iana curses her past self for making her such a despicable villain. She never imagined she would one day be reborn as the very character she doomed. After a tense moment, Konoha pleads for mercy, and Iana is instead sent to a distant estate so she will be far from Konoha. Grateful to still be alive, she silently thanks Konoha for her kindness. She tries to convince herself that she can live peacefully in this new world, but her relief fades once she remembers who she'll be sharing her confinement with, a person destined to kill her. Upon arriving at the manor, a butler informs her that she will remain there for 3 months. Iana notices that all the maids avoid eye contact, trembling at the sight of her. The butler adds that a special servant has been assigned to attend to her. Iana peers into one of the rooms prepared for her, cautiously checking for assassins. To her horror, she spots Sol, a character she wrote to eventually kill Iana. He's introduced as her personal attendant, meant to make her stay comfortable. Knowing his true purpose, Iana immediately steps back when he approaches. Sol assumes she's simply exhausted from travel and gently insists she rest while he prepares a warm drink for her. Once he leaves, Iana exhales in relief. But her peace lasts only a moment before she remembers that she must avoid every death flag if she wants to survive. She racks her brain for the story's details, but it's been too long to recall everything. Finally, she realizes her best chance at survival is to prove she poses no threat to Konoha. She doesn't notice Sol's return. He quietly carries a knife to end her life. As he slowly approaches, Iana suddenly remembers that this is the moment Sol is supposed to make his first attempt to kill her, so she quickly turns to face him. Startled, Sol immediately adjusts and resumes his role as the perfect butler, pouring her a cup of tea and politely asking about her plans. Iana, catching onto his act, plays along while subtly searching for the knife she knows he intends to use. She tells him she wants to write a letter to Konoha. Once he's gone, Iana swears to herself that she'll live a peaceful life by proving she means no harm and will even marry a plain nobleman so she can be happy in this world. However, Sol soon returns and tries once again to approach her, his intentions unclear. The moment she notices, he quickly shifts back into his innocent act, presenting her with the stationery set he promised. Iana immediately gets to work, determined to survive. Her first step is to write a letter to Konoha, declaring that she approves of Konoha and Jennifer's relationship, and sincerely apologizes for all the terrible things she's done. As she writes, Sol quietly tries to make sense of her actions near the doorway. He is curious why Iana is suddenly sending a letter to Konoha. He delivers the letter to Jinafort instead of Konoha. Jinafort is surprised by its contents, since it seems very unlike Iana to write to Konoha. Despite the apology, he assumes it's just another scheme, a manipulative attempt for Iana to get close to Konoha and strike again. Sol notes that Iana seems more cautious than before, reacting even to the faintest trace of bloodlust. Still, he resolves to fulfill his duty to Jinafort and assassinate her while she remains in confinement. Later, Sol returns to Iana's side and informs her that the letter couldn't be delivered because Konoha is out of town with their uncle. Trying to recall that detail, Iana remembers writing her uncle into Sol's backstory. It was the uncle who had witnessed Konoha save Sol from despair as a child. Without thinking, she blurts out the same comforting words Konoha once said to Sol years ago. Her words cause Sol to stare at her in shock. Realizing she may have drawn suspicion, Iana quickly claims she's feeling cold and excuses herself to return to her room. Once alone, she worries she may have triggered another death flag and anxiously tries to remember what Konoha and Jinafort are doing at this point in the story. She recalls that Konoha and Jinafort often managed to meet thanks to their uncle, who had always supported their relationship. At this point in the story, the two were supposed to meet again, unaware that their uncle had set a trap to capture Konoha. Iana remembers that in her story, she was only introduced as the main villain in the prologue. There were still other enemies meant to challenge Konoha. In the first chapter, the true antagonist was their uncle, whose twisted motivations came from his unrequited love for their mother. Since Konoha had grown to look exactly like her mother, their uncle had developed a sick obsession with her. He eventually lured her into a secluded place. When he tried to take advantage of her, Konoha awakened her hidden magic and managed to fight him off. However, Jinafort fell victim to the uncle's schemes, forcing Konoha to embark on a journey to find something that could awaken him. Iana tries to backtrack, recalling the sequence of events she had written. She wonders if Konoha's supposed trip with her uncle is actually when these events were meant to occur. Deciding she can't dwell on it now, she focuses on her immediate concern, and that is staying alive. Yet thinking about Konoha's kind nature fills Iana with guilt. Feeling desperate, she looks around the estate for anyone who might help, but all the servants avoid her. She sees Sol, who calmly reminds her that every servant has their own duties and that she can't treat them the way she used to when she was living in the main manor. She wants to argue but realizes no one will believe her story. Without another word, she resolves to leave the manor, burdened by guilt for the suffering her characters are enduring in the world she created. Grabbing some rocks, she decides to head to the capital to save Konoha and Jinafort. She manages to secure a horse, but despite having written that her character was skilled at riding, the real experience terrifies her. Meanwhile, Konoha, Jinafort, and their uncle arrive at a church. The couple plans to marry in secret, and the uncle convinces Jinafort to leave his sword behind, insisting that the wedding is a sacred ceremony. Iana races toward the church, arriving just in time to see her uncle raise his weapon against Jinafort. She knocks him across the church using the bag of rocks, ensuring Konoha and Jinafort's safety and promising to explain everything later. She urges Jinafort to take Konoha somewhere safe, entrusting her sister to his care. Alone at last, Iana exhales in relief, only for her uncle to rise again, ready to attack. Thankfully, Sol arrives just in time to save her, and Iana can't help but think how dashing he looks even as he lightly scolds her. Gathering her composure, she asks Sol how he managed to find her, and he reveals that he's been trailing her the entire time. Iana feels a pang of guilt for putting her characters through so much suffering and begins to feel responsible for their pain. As she prepares to leave, Jinafort approaches and asks if she's been secretly protecting Konoha all along from their uncle's obsession, suggesting that this might be the real reason she was so against his relationship with Konoha. Iana can't help but think how simplistic his reasoning is, but she decides to go along with it, realizing it's the best explanation to prove her innocence and avoid being killed. Before she can respond further, Sol interrupts, saying he wants to express his gratitude not to Iana, but to Konoha. He explains that it's thanks to Konoha's kindness that he's able to resist his urge to kill so well, though he warns that he would not hesitate if any harm were to come to her. Iana realizes that while she's temporarily saved herself, Konoha has yet to awaken her powers, leaving her defenseless. If anything were to happen to Konoha, Iana knows she would be the prime suspect in Sol's eyes. A month after her reincarnation, Sol takes Iana to the countryside. She admires the breathtaking scenery she once created in her own story, but a sudden chill runs down her spine, as if she's forgotten something important. When they arrive, Konoha warmly calls her over. Iana decides to go to her, happy to spend time with the Konoha she created. Before she can make her way over, Jinafort offers his help. However, Iana accidentally trips, forcing Jinafort to catch her. Sol tells her not to trouble Jinafort, adding that he'll escort her the rest of the way. She recalls that when designing Sol's character, she can imagine him as an ice butler, the opposite of Jennifer, who was made with fire in mind. She admits to herself that she had poured all her aesthetic sense into his creation. Though he's cold and intimidating, she can't deny that she's always found him strikingly handsome. As she fondly watches Kamenova and Jennifer together, Iana quietly swears to protect her sister no matter what. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every week.